Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life can be a little bit miserable, life can be a little bit dark, and if the last couple of weeks have anything to go by, very, very wet as well. So we're here to bring you as much joy and as much light and even more wetness as possible. And to make us as wet as possible, I'm joined as usual by Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Oh, filth. What a filthy start to the show.
Why not?
I know. Dragging the barrier and the barrier? What am I on about? Dragging the bar down. There should be a barrier to entry to this show. Yeah. You should leave your brain at the door or something. And
that's why we're here.
Exactly. We lower things. We do.
Yes, we do.
Including our trousers. There you go.
No, that's just too fast, Stu.
Okay.
What you need to do is leave holes in the garments for easy access.
Yeah. The old bottom, cutting out the bottom of the popcorn box trick, that kind of thing.
Oh, I mean, for your arms to go through your sleeves and your legs to go through.
I
have no idea what you're talking about.
No, it's probably best not to know.
No filth here.
Yeah.
Do you know what is filth, though?
What is filth?
Video games. Sexy video games.
True, they can be.
Yes, and I've got one with female protagonists in them this week. Oh.
Spicy. So, what have you been playing this week?
All right, the first one I've been playing is a nice family-friendly, and I do mean this, family-friendly co-op sandbox survival style game called Aloft, where you kind of one of those where you kind of goes, oh, we're going to dump you in a space and you've got to do your thing, explore and build things and survive and all that. And it's very pretty looking, nice and colourful, and you go around and you say, as I said, you build things, you explore. There's I wouldn't even say there's combat. There's some light puzzle elements to it. It's an early access game, I should put. It's called Aloft. I don't know if I even said the title to start with, but it's called Aloft.
You did?
I did, right, okay. But the idea is you go around, you've got to find knowledge on the island. I'm trying to think, there's a couple of games I've played in the past, single-player games, where it kind of unlocks mysteries of an island as you go through it, and it kind of does that. And it's like there's this aura, like this fungus type thing that's trying to take over the island, and you kind of got to find out, oh, why is it doing this and everything like that, while trying to survive, while trying to build and stuff like that. And my playthrough with it so far is in early access. It's fine. I played it. I just kind of went, hey, do you know what? It's all right. But, and I couldn't think of what the buts are. It's like the user interface in it is pretty poor, but they have said they're working on that. So I think that's always a big thing. If you've got a survival type game, your user interface, I think, is vital to this, because you need to know quite easily what do you need, what are you running out of, what do you have excess of, what's available for you to do. And I, like, when it comes to crafting, I found that I had to kind of fiddle my way around menus to try and work out what I was crafting, and it didn't like you going ahead of what the tutorials were, because I worked out, I could craft this now, so I crafted it. And then, even though I had one in my inventory, he was going, but you need to craft this. You need to craft this. And I was like, oh, great. So I had to go and recraft and find more materials despite having already. So little things like that in the user experience, the UI really do need fixing. The sense of discovery is really, really good, which I think is a big thing in survival games. And the survival elements are fairly well done. We kind of, I think we're seeing in general now, we're moving away from this, oh, you've taken 2 steps and run out of all your water. Oh, you've taken another 2 steps, get more water. oh, you've taken 3 steps, oh, you've died of starvation. You've kind of moved away from that more and more in survival games. And whilst you do need to pick up certain bits, it's not hampering your progress. You can make some decent progress before you need to stock up and stuff like that. So again, that's really good to see. There's quite a lot of different fauna and flora about the island that you get to meet. So far in my playthrough, I've not seen much in terms of differences in a lot of them, but that could just be the area I'm in, or again where it's early access. I'm hoping that stuff now add to it. The building and decorating and stuff like that is pretty well done. It's kind of like a version of how you build in Fortnite, where you kind of get like this ghost thing in front of you, or where you want to build, you build, and you just go bang, 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 bang. And if you get used to it, you can build quite fast. So build a bridge quite quickly and stuff like that. So it's got all the elements there that it could be a decent survival co-op game down the road. Just not there yet, where I'm going, oh, got to go back to that. I played it for a few hours and went, let's park that. Let's just park it and check it out when it gets its full release, because it's not quite there yet. There's a lot more time in the oven. But as I said, there's a lot of potential there and a lot of things to like about it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it looks like the graphical style is quite odd. It's like early millennium PC game, or like Fable or something. Is that what it looks like?
Yes. It's kind of like, again, not to breathe Fortnite, but it's kind of like if Fortnite had some character to it.
Harsh drive-by.
Fortnite hasn't got any character. It's very bland. Fortnite, despite being loads of colour, I find it very bland. This has got a lot of character. It's, let's say, DreamWorks light, I would say, in terms of its visual style.
That's
you
fair.
could imagine how you train your dragon game in this style, so to speak. And yeah, it's really nice to look at, and that's one of the first things, honestly, that attracted me to it. Was you see a lot of survival games and they look like asset flips, even the good ones. So like Ark Survival, that looks like an asset flip. Without the trees, it's very brown and all the trees are identical. This looks like it's actually had quite a lot of design input into it to give it some character and give it some life. So that's what attracted me to it. I said the gameplay is not there, but visually there, and the promise is there. I like the idea that it's kind of like this is airship that you build into islands. That's kind of nice, but again, early on, it doesn't feel like that's what you're doing. The concept's there, and I get it, but where I am at the moment, it doesn't feel like I'm part of this big overall airship type thing. It just feels like I could be on any land, and that maybe needs a bit more work just to bring that forward. Again, maybe that's something they're going to do for their 1.0. But yeah, if you're really into these, I say it's like 20 quid. It's worth it if you really like these. You're looking for another one. If you're more a casual person like I am, I would just add it to the wish list and keep an eye on it.
Yeah, a wait and see. Yeah, sounds fair.
Yeah. A wait and see for Aloft. No,
Good.
That's bad. No, that wasn't. That was bad.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
We just end the podcast there, I think. Yeah, just to sod it. That's the end.
Fair play. So as usual, join us. No.
Yeah. What have you been playing, Stu?
Well, I've been playing something that's been around for a little while now, and it's a walking simulator called the Invincible, which is, it's based on a very famous, comparatively famous novel by a very famous author called Stanislav Lem, who wrote Solaris, which you'll know from the films, from your local...
From old George Clooney, the original.
Yeah, the George Clooney original, correct. Yeah, there's no finer actor.
No.
Funny George Clooney.
Solaris.
Yeah. So
he's a good actor, George Clooney. Sorry, just a sidetrack there. He could get some really good stuff going, but then he gets other weird shit going that's not so good. So, but yeah, he takes the money. Why not? It's a job.
Yeah, very variable output, I would say. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Clooney aside, there's no Clooney in this. No Clooney present. It's Clooneyless. But it's basically you're stranded on an alien world with the rest of your team from a ship, and shenanigans ensue. And I don't really want to go into it much more than that because it will be spoilers. But the look of it's very sort of retro futuristic. It's sort of 60s, 70s styled, if you imagine sort of 2001 A Space Odyssey, but sort of even more colourful, that kind of styling. And it's got a very kind of pleasantly eerie atmosphere, I would say. It's got a sort of menace and a threat in the background without being an overt horror game. It's kind of existentially kind of scary. And essentially, you move through the environment and you interact with certain things, and you have to uncover clues and you have to unravel what's going on, as you would expect in this sort of thing. And it really does have a very clear stratagem for a really good atmosphere to it. It's like the tech feels chunky and survivable, which contrasts with the world, which is very threatening and is a very harsh environment. So you feel like, yes, you're prepared to be here, but it's still a struggle. And that kind of reminds me, sort of tangential way of Red Matter, the VR game, which is extremely good. And yeah, so I mean, it plays as you'd kind of expect for this sort of a game. It's not particularly dynamic. It's fairly slow paced. It's more about atmosphere and about discovery than it is about gameplay. The only couple of issues, one sort of major, one sort of minor. The sort of major issue is there isn't very much to do, and that's kind of okay, but at the same time, with it looking like Red Matter and with Red Matter having such good puzzles in it, you kind of go, was there a little bit more they could have done in terms of adding interactivity into the game rather than it be kind of almost verging on being a novel, a playable novel kind of thing. So yeah, it's not very deep. It's deep conceptually, and the script is good. Storyline is excellent so far. All of that. Gameplay wise, it's definitely one of the more hands-off type of walking sims. A minor one, I don't know whether you consider this minor or not, but I keep getting crashes on Steam Deck. Now, obviously, it's quite, it's not a hefty game, but it's fairly advanced. So that not running perfectly on Steam Deck is kind of okay, but it's still a bit of a detractor because it limits how often I can play it. So I'm not sure whether that's just mine or just my experience or what, but yeah, seems to be happening.
I had to fiddle quite a bit with finding the right proton for it. It didn't. Back when I played it when it first came out, it didn't play well with like Proton Experimental or anything. I had to go back to an older version, and for the life of me, I can't remember which one it was. But it was just a set up and go, unfortunately. But when it did go, I wasn't getting any crashes. Yeah. So yeah, I think you need to have if you really want to see it to the end, then yeah, you need to go and maybe do some Googling and find what Proton's best for it.
Yeah, I will, and I'm happy to even if I can't get it right, I'm happy to finish it off on my PC. But yeah, so overall, I'm enjoying it so far. It has a VR mod, a UEVR mod. So UEVR is Unreal Engine VR, which is this fan-made mod to basically play pretty much any Unreal Engine 4 or 5 game in VR, which is amazing. I mean, I think it has, obviously ups and downs. Some work better than others, but by and large, it's excellent. I can imagine it in VR being an even better experience, like a much better, more immersive experience. But yeah, no, it's a good game. I'm enjoying it so far. And I just like that we can stretch to this kind of genre of game and have it be a hit, because it's definitely where we need to go, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think as an experience, I think it was absolutely sublime. And yeah, that kind of threat that's there without ever actually being a threat that's in your face, I thought was remarkably done. My problem was with the game, as you said, there was very little to actually do. And where it wanted to get the sense of you being alone and lost on this gigantic planet, and just it's you against the elements, so to speak, for a lot of it. Again, without trying to spoil any shenanigans and stuff that go. I thought it done really well, but it doesn't sustain it well enough for me to the point where I was like, oh, I've got to go over there now, kind of thing. It, yeah, it lacked something, but I can't put my finger on because I can't think what they could have done differently to improve it at the same time. Whereas part of me's thinking, you mentioned this would work as a George Clooney movie.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would work. From what I've played of it so far, it would definitely work as a film.
Sam Rockwell could do it because he was good in.
Yeah, in Moon. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Not Mark Wahlberg though, because was it Mark Wahlberg? No, Damon. Not Damon Wayans, Matt Damon in The Martian. I wasn't too keen on that.
Forgettable, I would say.
Yeah. But
so,
no, I think it's one of these where it would have been maybe better as a film. Because would you believe if I told you I've read the novel?
I would believe you. Yeah, I mean, I know you're not often a novel reader, but
I haven't read the novel. No.
Oh,
whatever this was through the game.
Fair enough.
Read the novel. But most novels I go, I'll have to wait till there's a film.
Yeah, it shows how credulous I am that I believed you, really.
Yeah, I've not read many novels. I don't do much reading. It's ADHD. Magazine, manga, stuff like that, loads. Novels, I get bored.
Fair play.
Anyway, we've been going on for this, what feels like an eternity, Stu.
I feel a setup coming on. Go on.
Oh, yeah, this would be a good segue, wouldn't it? I've been playing Eternal Strands.
Aha.
Yes. Which has the aforementioned previous lady in it. This is such a woke game, Stu. It has a woman.
Oh, female protagonist.
Right, yeah, right. And do you know what they've done with this female protagonist, Stu?
Have they covered her up?
She wears clothes that are appropriate to her situation, Stu.
Oh, that's no good.
I know. And she's kind of like, she doesn't need a man to help her. And you can't even see her boobies. What's the point in video games anymore, I say to you?
That's it. I'm out. I'm totally out.
Yeah. All right, okay. So, yeah, don't buy Eternal Strands. No. Eternal Strands, it's a action-adventure type thing. I wouldn't say it's like a Soulsborne type thing. It's a lot more actually like that, but I wouldn't go it's either to Devil May Cry or anything like that. Kind of almost like a halfway house between the two. So you play as this protagonist whose name escapes me, in all fairness, and you basically go through this world and you find you've got these magical abilities and different weapons, and the weapons you have to the abilities you have mean some have more effect on other things than others, and then you can change up your magic abilities to do different things to other things and affect the world around you. So you got one might be like, oh, you can use ice to put out fire, or you could do this to get rid of like these vines and stuff like that. And you kind of make your way through the world fighting loads of different enemies and everything like that. The story for me is a bit bobbins, but it's an action adventure game. Stories for those sort of things they're just more for getting you onboarded. Rather than there's actually much of a point to the story. I'm sure there is, and I feel really bad, but I get lost with stories. If the intro's too long, I just fall asleep until it lets me start playing. This is one of those where the intro goes on, not ridiculously long, but it was just like, just get me to the gameplay. Bryn, that was her name, the character's name, Bryn. And yeah, it's kind of like it's got this set up, and you go and you learn more about your abilities, and you come across different enemies as you traverse the worlds, and you find different biomes that you go into, and it is just pure action adventure, and the way you manipulate the world around you, the way you can zip around and take on bigger enemies and stuff like that. I would say it's got puzzling elements that are akin to maybe something like Enslaved. Odyssey to the West, it's got maybe bits like that, some of the traversal, some of the puzzling elements. Again, not as full on as that. It's kind of taken elements from loads of different things, but moulded them together really, really well. Um, as I said, it's the spells are really good and the world feels alive. So if something, I've not seen this in a while actually that works well. So if something catches fire in the world, it starts to spread in a natural way. I think the only games I've seen I'll say recently, going back a few years now, that done really good natural spread in fire was either Far Cry 2 or the Alone in the Dark from like 2009, 2008.
Right. Yeah.
And it had the fire spreading in buildings and stuff like that. The episodic one they did anyway. Um, but the fire spread, like heat spreads really well, and the way you have to use cold spells against it feels really, really good. And it's not just a kind of, just aim it in general and it'll finally get rid of it for you. You have to really consider how to douse those flames, and they can overwhelm the cold again. So what you can kind of do, and I found this early on, is you kind of go, right, let's get to these flames and get through before they take over again. And you can't, there's no perfect way of doing it. Whereas a lot of games in this mold have this idea of this is canned animation. So the flames are there, you've put them out, now they're gone. This isn't doing that at all. I'm also playing at the moment, say, like the Division 2, and I'm not really big on the flames thing, but it just really impresses me how well they've done it. So, like in the Division 2, you can blow up something and stuff will catch fire, and then it just naturally just goes out, even if it's in, you're looking and go, well, that's all flammable up round there. That's not safe. That should all go up, but it doesn't. You feel like if this was this engine, it would gradually all take over. The whole building would be consumed by flames and everything. But it's really good. The combat feels natural. The further you go, it's a bit clunky to start with, but that's pretty much a gaming trope these days. You could do things. It reminds me a bit of in Darksiders, where you could pick up things with your abilities and launch them to distract enemies directly, or even use it to attack them. It's got that in there, depending on what spells you've got attached. And again, you can level certain bits up and kind of create the character you want to. And whilst I don't think Bryn is a standout character, she's not going to be the next Lara Croft or the next Ellie or anything like that, she's perfectly serviceable as a character. And you care enough to want to sort of you're not just let's just get through this. You care enough about her as a character. And whereas I said, to start with the story's a bit bobbins, it actually holds to, once you actually get playing, the way it then tells the story throughout gameplay is really good. And it does keep your attention going. And yeah, there's so much more to discover. I would say I'm probably about halfway through it at the moment. I spent a few hours in it. There's lots I feel that I've not learned yet, both in terms of gameplay and in terms of the overall story and the mysteries that are around. And just loads of different things, but it is a really, really, really good game. I kind of picked it up thinking I don't think there's going to be much to this, but hey, I'm after something just a bit turn your brain off and play. But it's really surprised me, and I'm really happy I picked this one up.
Cool. Yeah, I've got that on my list. It's definitely one I'm thinking of getting soon. It does look quite impressive for what it is, like a single A or double A kind of release as well. And
yeah, it's
nice niche.
A double A game. It's not triple A in both the good and bad sense. So it's not like the production values, even though it's got these elements, you can tell it's not kind of got millions of dollars behind it, but also it's not got a whole bunch of corporate studio interference to it.
Yeah, definitely going to get that one at some point.
Yes, definitely do. 30 it's weird to say it's a budget title in this day and age at 30, just over 30 quid, but it's it's 20 quid less than most games at the moment, and I think you'll get a lot more fun out of that than you would out of, I don't even know what the latest AAA that's come out is than that anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. COD? I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know, but yeah, just over 30 quid. I think that's, from what I'm getting of it, that's a solid price as well, and it runs absolutely fantastically on Steam Deck.
Very good.
You want to fit your one in?
Yeah, why not, eh?
Go on
Yeah.
then. Let's fit a one in.
Ooh, careful now.
As
But
that, or whatever her name was said. I don't know.
that's what she said. But
Is that what she was called? I don't know.
I don't know. Let's step away from that subject and talk about instead. We'll talk about what I've been playing, which is Stormland, which is another VR game. Not another, because I wasn't talking about a VR game, but I was talking about VR, so that's where that comes in. But yeah, no, it's a VR game, and it's a funny one because it's by somebody really huge, which is Insomniac. It was released quite a few years ago. It's like 6 years old, and it was delisted, so it's not available anymore. And like the speculation as to why, it was on the Oculus store, but it was PC VR, not Oculus Quest. It was available for quite a while, and then it just disappeared. And there's speculation, Sony took over Insomniac. Is it because of them? Is it because they want to do a meta release at some point? Blah blah blah. But anyway, at the moment you can't get it. So I, of course, had bought it before it was delisted. Honest Gov, that's how I got my hands on it.
Just like you got, just how I play out one, yeah.
Precisely, exactly the same way. Yeah, bought it, legally before it was delisted. So yeah, but it's a really good. It's a really strange one. It's a really strange one. For everything in VR, there's a sort of pre Half-Life Alex and a post Half-Life Alex, and this is kind of pre, but also a bit post, and I'll explain. So you kind of like, everyone either kind of sticks with the template of what adventure or action VR games are, and they're kind of incorporating all the comfort controls. They're not doing anything that you're shocked by. They're kind of standard, even though because they're VR, they're quite enhanced in the way that you interact with things. That kind of a feeling. And then there's the Alex thing, the Half-Life Alex thing, where they've really taken a step forward and tried to make things so interactive and smooth and slick that you feel much more immersed in the world. And this is a weird combo of the two because it's so comparatively old. So yeah, basically you're a robot who's stranded on a planet that was inhabited by your fellow robots, and you were basically curators of the planet. I mean, this is starting to sound very similar to that Mellowbot that was in my top 10 last year. And you basically create curators of the planet, and it gets invaded by another species and gets devastated. And your mission, which is kind of vague, even to the point where I'm at, and I've played it a good few hours, is basically to get, I think, basically stop the invasion and also, get back to the equilibrium of the planet. And that sounds unusual, and it is unusual. So this is very lush, very physical, very soft environment populated by these angular robots who are also very caring. And you get a lot of controls in the game that you don't get in many VR games. So you get you can hover it on water at some point, and you get like a speed boost across it. There's a lot of verticality where you're either in rockets that take you up, or you can fly up yourself. There's sort of drift controls where you can hover downwards from high spaces, and you can climb. There's a heck of a lot in there, and because it's the pre-Alex world, it's a little bit funky. So I really got good VR legs. I don't get sick easily in VR, but this has knocked me sick in places. There's some really odd movement when you're descending that made me a bit sick, and also the speed up when you're crossing water just really knocked me for one. And the comfort is really odd. It's obvious then why these things have been trammeled a bit and put down softer, safer routes in VR. But I really applaud its attempts to do something really out there and new, and it really does. And the environments feel really kind of real. They feel very, very vertical, very deep. They feel like proper spaces, and being able to traverse them at different speeds and at different heights, that's really important to VR. And it's also got
bed and breakfast, that in it. Bread and butter, rather. Bed and breakfast, bread and butter.
It was a little bit sort of surprised, but yeah, well, it should be. Yeah. So yeah, having that verticality, really, really, really great, and it's got tons of interactivity as well. So it does stuff that you still don't get a great deal of, even in modern games. Like it would be so boring in a 2D game, like pressing buttons to do stuff, but just turning on screens and reading logs and things like that. But in VR, it's really good. You're physically interacting with stuff, and the point of it is as well is that you're not menuing. So the great thing about VR is they build a lot of the way that you interact with yourself and your abilities into your arms and the control that you have. So it's not like a 2D game where it's either a button combination, which has to be memorized, or it's menuing or choosing from a wheel. All of that stuff is done much more interactively and physically in game, and it stops that immersion breaking of having to constantly make options that are chosen from a list. And just doing things like bringing it up a menu and then using your finger to choose something on a dial, and then tapping something on your wrist to make an alteration. All of that stuff done really, really well, and it doesn't break the immersion all the way through. So it's a really odd game, very, very successful. Even though it's odd, it really works, and you have to brace yourself for it. It's real. If you got like your tiers of TIERS tiers of what you can cope with in VR, this is like right up at the top of the hardest to cope with. But if you've got the VR legs, then like if like me, you bought it before it was delisted, then definitely play it, because it's a real proper different experience.
Cool. I'll never play it.
No,
but
fair play.
Sounds interesting. It definitely sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I love this as you talk about VR, because you're as into that as I am. Like my roguelike deck builders.
True. Yeah, I get a bit frustrated by gaming sometimes, not often, but sometimes, in that it doesn't push any boundaries, and it's got, in the last sort of 3-4 years, it's got even more conservative because it's become even more money based, especially AAA. And like, you need AAA gaming because without the investment, you can't push the genre forward as easily. And so you need them to be around, even though most of the time, the publishers are twats. You kind of need that around, and you want innovation, and you want things like weird control schemes. You want Nintendo producing stuff like the Wii, so you've got a different, controller set. You want things that are going to make alterations and give you new experiences, and that doesn't have to happen all the time. But it has to happen enough so that you get a revived interest. And games like this, even though it's 6 years old, they really do that. And it's great. It's great to see it.
Yeah, no, awesome. Yeah, I think you're right. You look at, like, I think even live service, if handled right, could have been done really well. We've said in the past, you could create a world and then have stories made in that world on an episodic basis that are released over time and stuff, like everyone gets access to them, and live events and stuff like that, but do it in a way that's not purely to make money. It could have been handled so much better. Now, just the term of a live service is so toxic that no one's going to touch it. And I think, having these worlds that you can build on, I think, God, it's dead in the water now. So you're right about the whole, you need the AAA to invest so others can push the boundaries. VR still, it's in a weird position. VR still, they need to find a way to make it more accessible to people on a much cheaper level. Because even for someone like me, there's like so many versions of like the MetaQuest. And then you look at the prices of like various different Oculuses and whatever, like everyone goes, oh, this is the one you want because this is like £1,000. It's like, well, I don't want to spend £1,000, but also which one of these? I don't want to get like the really rubbish quest because I might not be able to play everything, or it might not work well. So do I get this quest? But that's quite expensive to waste. So it almost needs a Valve to do a Steam Deck type situation for VR, where everyone goes, that's the one, that's the entry point. Whereas I don't think that exists at the moment.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think that with VR, I don't know, it might well have reached the end of its road, to be quite honest with you. It might just stay as it is. And the reason I say that is, like, even as a big VR proponent, it has a lot of drawbacks, and it is kind of like, your Wii Fit. A lot of people just bought like a Wii and Wii Fit, and it was one and done, and that was it. And I think that's happened a lot with, a Quest and Beat Saber. People have got it, they've gone, that's brilliant, but that's all I'm ever using it for.
Yeah.
It's hot, it's heavy, the batteries run out fast, the games are expensive, they're a closed marketplace, so the prices don't drop often enough. There aren't any AAA in that area. The boundaries aren't being pushed quickly enough. There's all sorts of drawbacks, and they are very frustrating. And when I talk about progress, I really want to see something else. I really want to see, some other technical device. I want to see some different 3D kind of effect, whether that's based in a TV or AR or holograms. I'd love to see something like that. But, the big boys are just happy pushing out, another COD and not thinking about that. And, that's disappointing. But yeah, there we go. I mean, that might be it for VR. It might just stay as a niche and might just get slight refinements over the years until it completely gets superseded by fancy holograms or something. But yeah, we'll see. I'm sticking with it for now at least. But yeah, it's good for what it does, but it's definitely restrictive.
Yeah. Don't want to end on what sounds like a downer and the killing off of VR. That came out of completely nowhere. That last act, you're killing off VR, Stu. That's what no one. That's like M Night Shyamalan man style twists.
I know, right?
Just want to pick up a game I picked up and I've been waiting for about 4 years now. Came out last week, and it's called Spirit Swap Lofi Beats to Match 3-2, which is essentially a Tetris Attack Panel de Pon style game, but it's basically made. It's an indie version of these, and it's got like this story. Very, very. If you want to support LGBTQ creators, this is the one to go to. It's the people behind this have been working on it for years. They're called Soft Knock Week, the company behind it. And literally the opening two lines of the game description are cast spells, be queer. So it's a really, really good game. But obviously the right wing mob will probably jump on it as to why you shouldn't buy this game. It's an absolutely brilliant Tetris Attack clone with a quite a fancy, cool little cozy story to it. It's really fun to play. Unfortunately, I've using one of my new Steam Deck plugins. There's only 3 people playing it online at the moment. More people need to play. Same as Eternal Strands. There was only 100 and something people playing it online at the moment on Steam. That needs to change, some of these. But yeah, pick up Spirit Swap. It's a really good action puzzler.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, no, I really like the look of that. What I think is brilliant over the last few years is there's been this extinction burst of trying to get rid of LGBTQ plus QIA things everywhere, by the right wing. But ironically enough, it's never been more in discussion. It's never been more in the news. The branding has never been as on point. Whether you go into looking at Drag Race or whether you're looking at this game, which is you instantly feel, I don't know, welcome. It's kind of the whole. Yeah, the whole queer community thing feels like this lovely little oasis of calm and welcomeness in the middle of a difficult world. And I think, that's brilliant. And it's so good to see, talking about ending on a positive note, it's so good to see. I'm very tempted to pick this up. So is it kind of a classic match 3 kind of game?
No, it's, if you Tetris Attack and Panel de Pon, so you get this wall that climbs. you can only swap left and right, and you've got to create cascades and stuff like that when you match to create combos to then beat out your opponent and stuff like that. It's so if you used to Google Tetris Attack and Panel de Pom, which are the two classics, it's basically those games. If you want to see if you'll like it, is there a demo? I think there's a demo. There was a demo at one point. But if not, you could grab Tetris Attack on SNES and play that and get an idea, because this is what it's based off. But I love it. But you know what I'm like with these sort of games anyway, Stu. So, but you reminded me about the way everyone's like, sort of like, there's a fight back against the anti-LGBTQ types. So, favourite story this week. There was an anti-woke awards for video games. And they gave one of the awards they gave was to Nightmare Kart.
I've seen this, yeah.
And the creator is trans. And as a thank you for getting this anti-woke award, basically thanked the awards people on the opening screen and just put a trans flag on the opening screen.
Superb. I'm so proud of them for doing that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it got review bombed because of it. And then we got like something like review, and then 5 times as many people went and gave it positive reviews. So it's now just all over because it's a free game. It's like it's showing listed everywhere. It's getting like loads of overwhelmingly positive reviews, and it's just absolutely brilliant to see the community just come together and just go, you idiots.
That's so cool. Barbara Streisand effect. That's so brilliant.
Yeah, my favourite story of the year. I think that one's going to be because there's no way. I don't know. They can't. How do they backtrack from that? Because they've obviously said, "Oh, we love this game."
Yeah.
Like, you just said you love the game, so you can't even backtrack from it. I didn't know it was trans. I mean, because what they showed, it doesn't matter who's making the game. A good game's a good game.
Yeah, that battle is lost and the game designers won. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But yeah, Spirit's what I really like it, Stu. Yeah, get Tetris Attack, test the waters. If you like Tetris Attack, then you'll like this. If you've got a spare 15 quid at any point and you just want to support LGBTQ creators, then obviously just do that as well.
Cool. Yeah, I've played Panel de Pon, although very many years ago. But was there a DS game?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was on DS.
Puzzle League, it was called in this country. Right. And me and Lorraine used to play that constantly against each other. That was one of my favourite puzzle games.
Nice. Yeah, I might well check this out. Get a copy of it.
Do it. Right. Anyway, time to shut up shop.
Yeah, we can't top that. It's nice to finish on a very positive note. So, as usual, follow us on all the socials. Make sure you're checking out our content on the website. And if you want to talk, go on to Discord. Support us on Patreon if you think you can afford it. And apart from that, until next time, stay safe and stay sane.